DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show, one daily masterclass, all under one umbrella that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic, the consistency of greatness, aka how to be good all the time. Actually, it should be how to be great all the time. How do you maintain that level of greatness? Now, everyone here knows what it feels like to be great. How do I know that you know that? Because when I say great, I'm talking relatively. I'm talking relative to what your baseline is, what your average performance is, and what your great performance is. And that could be in the way that you feel. It could be in the way you play your sport, the way you show up at your job, the way you show up in your relationships, the way you deal with your family, the way just the energy that you bring to all the things that you do. You know what it feels like to have a great day. You know what it feels like to have an average day. You know what it feels like to have a not so good day. And I talked about greatness in a few episodes here on the show. I want to refer you to those. I may mention them again later on in this episode, but I want to refer you to them up front. In episode 1543, how to focus your greatness. In episode 1103, the greatness equation is one of my personal favorites here. Where I talk, in the greatness equation, I tell you the equations that can lead to being terrible, being mediocre, being okay, and being amazing. So if you want to know what the equation is and what combinations you need to have, what talent stack you need to have in place, then check out episode 1103. In episode 991, greatness is greedy. The question is, are you greedy enough to be great? Greatness does not rest on its laurels. It does not reach a certain level and say, okay, I'm good here. Greatness is always angling for more. In episode 800, how to know when you're in the presence of greatness. How do you know when you're around great people? In episode 782, which goes hand in hand with what we're going to talk about here today. Greatness is a decision. So make sure you check out all those episodes, and also one more, episode 350. Key to greatness is frequency. All right, being great means doing it over and over and over again. Another episode that goes hand in hand with what we're going to talk about here today. So if you want to know how to be great all the time, how to be at your best performance, whatever that is for you on a consistent basis, first of all, turn the volume up. Second of all, get rid of all distractions in the room. And third, grab something to take notes with. Open a document on your phone, whatever you got to do. Make sure you're taking notes on what I'm going to say here today, because you will not remember all of it. And I want you to send me a text and tell me the best thing you get from today's masterclass. My number is 305-384-6894. Again, 305-384-6894. The topic, once again, the consistency of greatness. Point number one, when you are really good at what you do, I mean really good, like professional level, when you're a pro at what you do, here's how often you deliver a great performance. And this is something that I'm actually going to address, and something else that I got coming up soon I haven't announced yet, but you'll hear about it soon. I heard an NBA player named Gilbert Arenas. He doesn't play anymore. He does no podcasting. He's out there on the internet. But I heard him say this years ago, and I believe it to be true to this day. He said, when you're a pro at what you do, you have to be at your best. You have to give a great performance at least 50% of the time. In other words, people who are professionals at their work, they give a great performance at least half of the time when they perform. Anything less than half, you're not a pro. You are basically an amateur, or you won't stick around in the pros if you can't be great at least half of the time when you step up, when you show up rather. When you're a star professional, all right, so we got the pros, you got the baseline level pros, but then you got the stars at the pro level. They deliver a great performance about 75% of the time. So if they show up 100 times, 75 of that 100, they're going to give a great performance. Those are the stars. And the superstars, all right, these are the people at the top echelon. These are the highest paid people. They can demand the highest salaries. They can basically name their price. These are the people that people show up for. These are people who get what they get based on the quality and the strength of their brand and their reputation for delivering. And then they deliver on that reputation. You know how often they deliver? 95% of the time. The superstar professionals are the people who deliver a great performance 95%. You check what they're doing, 95% of their episodes, 95% of their books, 95% of their content, 95% of the stuff that they do is super quality, high level material. If you want to be a superstar, you got to deliver at your best, not just good enough, but at your best 95% of the time. Now, Gilbert Arenas was an NBA player, and when he said this, I think he was in the NBA when he said it. I don't remember exactly when he said it, but I think he was playing in the league during the time that he said this. And Gilbert had a nice 2 or 3 year run where he was probably one of the top 10 players in the NBA. And he was talking specifically about basketball when he said it. And what he was talking about was being an all-star. And he was saying, the people in the NBA, with an 82-game season, the superstar players have a great game. They have to have a great game about 75 out of those 82 games in the season. You understand how hard it is to have a great game 75 out of 82 times when everybody is watching you, everybody knows that you're the best player, and everybody on the other team has game planned to stop you? You understand that in the pros, there's a counter strategy against you. So yeah, you got your strategy to be good and you worked on your game and all, but your opponents have a strategy to stop you from being good. And you have to be good anyway, despite the fact that everybody has planned to stop you from being good, and then you do it anyway. That's a superstar. 75 out of 82 games, you got to be great. And then Gilbert said for about 50 to 75 games, those are the stars and the solid starters. That's how often they have a great game. And then everybody else is like half the games or less. Everybody else who's in the NBA. Now, mind you, all of these guys are pros. All of these guys are highly paid. All of these guys are in the top 1%. But the people at the top echelon of that top 1%, they got to deliver damn near every time. That's what it means to be great. Greatness is not about everyone. It's not about your talent, because there are a lot of talented people in the pros. As a matter of fact, in case you didn't know, there are a lot of talented people not in the pros. I mean, talented at thing X who cannot become a professional X. Why? Because talent is not enough to get into the pros. There are too many people with talent for everybody with talent to make it to the pros. What gets you into the pros is everything that goes along with talent, namely discipline, confidence, mental toughness, personal initiative. Do you have those things to make your talent be consistent? What makes you great is the fact that you do it every single time. The reason somebody's willing to sign up with you is because they know you're going to deliver all the time. The reason they're willing to give you a contract as a pro athlete, because they know you're going to have a great game all the time. Not because you have the talent to have a great game. Listen, how many there are players playing at the playground right now who have the talent to have a great game, but they're not pros. You know why? Because they can't do it every single day. Or they haven't proven that they can, which is why nobody will take a chance on them. So when you are a pro at what you do, you got to be great damn near every time. And this is not a matter of talent. This is not a matter of happenstance. It's not a matter of luck. This is a choice that you have to make. And I already gave you the episode where I told you greatness is a decision. That was episode number 782. Greatness is a decision. Are you willing to make the decision to be that great all the time? Don't answer the question yet. Do not answer that question yet, because even though this sounds good, it sounds exciting and motivating when we're talking about it, right? But actually doing it every time when you're out there, any of you who has been in these situations, you know that it's much easier to talk about than it is to do. Let's move on to point number 2. Let me give you everything before you answer that question. Point number 2, the topic once again is the consistency of greatness. Understand that what we're talking about here is not happenstance. Being great consistently is not happenstance, meaning it does not happen randomly. It does not happen because you have talent. It does not happen because all the stars are going to align in order for you to have a good day. It does not work like that, people. Being great consistently is a decision. It is a demand that you make of your mental toughness to do it every single time. Why is this? Because there are going to be times when you don't feel like doing it. There will be times when you don't feel like showing up. There will be times when you don't feel like bringing your best game. There'll be times when everything is set up for you to not have a good day, and you got to have a good day anyway. Why? Because you have decided to be great. I told you in episode 907 how to make it to the 4th day. And the 3rd day, the day before the 4th day, that's the day when you have a job to do, and it is 100% your responsibility to be great, but you don't quite feel like it. And the question is, on that 3rd day, what are you going to do? Are you going to give a not quite feel like it performance? Are you going to not show up at all? Are you going to give a half-ass performance, mediocre performance? Or are you going to decide, you know what, even though I don't quite feel like it, I'm still going to show up and give my best? Are you going to do that on the 3rd day? If you do, then you make it to the next step, which is the 4th day, when this thing becomes routine. It becomes easy, where you don't even have to push yourself that hard, but it happens anyway. That's the 4th day. But not many people ever see the 4th day at what they do, even professionally. Not many people ever get to it because not many people are willing to push themselves hard enough on the third day when they don't feel like pushing themselves. Again, it's very easy to push yourself when you feel good. It's easy to push yourself when everything's working. It's easy to push yourself when everything seems to be working in the direction that you want things to go. How hard do you push yourself when things are not working? How hard do you push yourself when you are not getting results? How hard do you push yourself when it looks like everybody else is getting results and you're doing the same thing they're doing, but none of your stuff is working? Do you push yourself then? And let me remind all of you, especially you professionals and you want to be professionals, this is what makes the star professionals and the superstar professionals. Is what they do when it's not working. It's what they do when they don't feel good. It's what they do when the energy is not there and everybody's dragging and nobody quite feels like it. The superstars find the energy within them, and then they light everybody else's fire with their torch. It's not about what you do when you feel great. All right, everybody plays hard and has good energy when everything's working. All right, I'm not interested in that. And if you plan on being a pro, listen, that's a dime a dozen. Because they all got talent. This is a challenge of your mental toughness. This is a demand that you must make of your mental toughness. So yes, you do need talent. Trust me, you can't be a pro without talent. But you're not great until you maximize the use of that talent by doing it over and over and over again in a consistent way that is predictable. People can predict that you're going to have a good game and you do it. People can predict, all right, we know we got to stop this guy, and they still can't stop you. That's a choice. That choice requires several sub-decisions that lead to the outcome. Let me give you some examples of those sub-decisions that I'm talking about. Being mentally sharp on a consistent basis. You want to be mentally sharp every day? Any of you who runs a company, or you have people working for you, or you got people who are reporting to you, or you just want to, you know that being mentally sharp is one of the things that you're going to need in order to be great consistently. Let me tell you some sub-decisions you're going to need to make in order to be mentally sharp every day. You're probably going to need to get an ample amount of sleep on a consistent basis. You're probably not going to want to eat too much processed food, which is going to clog your mind. You don't want to be sitting around eating chips and ice cream and candy all the time. Not to say you can't eat them at all. I enjoy those things. I've actually got all three in my house right now. But you don't want your whole diet to consist of them because you're not going to be as mentally sharp as you need to be to deliver your best work if you're doing that on a consistent basis, if you need to be mentally sharp. Another example of sub-skills. If you're an athlete and you want to play really well in your sport 95% of the time, like I said, to be great, that's going to require you doing a healthy amount of off-season training. You're going to have to do maintenance exercises during the season to maintain your conditioning, and you're going to have to watch your nutritional decisions in between games and in between your trainings. Are you willing to do that? That sounds simple, but are you willing to do it? It's not as easy as it sounds. Again, talking about is one thing, doing it's another thing. Let me give you another example. If you want to be consistently great at business, that will require somebody in that business has to be constantly paying attention to what's working in the business and what's not working in the business. You look at Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, one of my favorite books. The book is basically about this whole concept. Considering your sub-decisions, the little things, for what they will lead to in the long term. That's what that book is about. It's about all these sub-decisions that need to be made by somebody, and usually it's a group of people, a group of great minds all thinking together and saying, okay, here's the North Star. All right, what sub-decisions need to be made for us to reach that North Star, for us to get to the actual outcome that we want? Are you making those sub-decisions? And first of all, figure out what the big decision is. Then, in order to make that big decision, what are the sub-decisions that we need to make along the way? I'll tell you just an anecdote here. I just read this book called, I think it was called Showtime. The book was about Kobe Bryant's life, Kobe Bryant's career, his basketball career. It was written by Roland Lazenby, who's written a lot of books about athletes. He did one about Michael Jordan, and he did another one about Kobe. He's a really good biographer. And in this book, he talked to one of the LA Lakers assistant trainers. This guy was he helped the players with their conditioning for all the players who played for the Lakers. Now, this is the NBA, highest level of basketball. He's working with Kobe Bryant, one of the best players in the league. And the trainer said, this is what the trainer said in the book. The trainer was like, he gives every athlete on the team an off-season and an in-season conditioning program for them to be in their best shape, in the off-season, before the season starts, coming into training camp, and during the season. And what the trainer said is that we make that conditioning program so rigorous and it is so regimented, meaning like how much you have to sleep, how much stretching you got to do, how much conditioning work you got to do. He said no player ever follows that whole program 100%. Is that we designed it so it's damn near impossible to follow it 100%. But he said Kobe Bryant came the closest of any player I have ever seen to following that program. He said Kobe would play in a game, score 30, 40 points in a game. The Lakers would get on the airplane, fly to the next city, get off the plane at 2 o'clock in the morning, and Kobe would call the trainer into his hotel room to stretch him out so he could continue following the conditioning program. And Kobe would do the conditioning exercises in the offseason. He would do the conditioning work during the season while he was the workhorse on the team. That everybody in the league's trying to stop him. He's the one playing the most minutes, scoring the most points, having to carry the team every day. And he still followed that conditioning program more than anybody else that trainer ever saw. Even the bench guys, the guys who don't even play in the games, weren't following the conditioning program the way Kobe was. Do you think that is a coincidence, everybody? You would think that's kind of paradoxical, right? That the guy doing the most work during the games is actually also doing the most work outside of the games. That is a choice. That is a decision that you have to make. I would suggest you read that book. And again, I told y'all here, if you are new listening to the show, anytime I mention a book, you should go read it. I just mentioned 2 books, Good to Great by Jim Collins and Showtime by Roland Lazenby. That book is about Kobe Bryant. Read both of them. Point number 3. Today's topic is the consistency of greatness. Understanding consistency of greatness means that even when you are not at your best, and even when you don't feel great, you still deliver. Since we're talking about basketball, I mean, everyone, even if you're not a basketball fan or basketball watcher, we all know Michael Jordan. And everyone knows the story about the flu game with Michael Jordan. Any of you don't know what that is, Google the flu game and go look up the video on YouTube. It's better to watch the video than even read the story about it. It was in 1990. Which year was this? It was 97. 97 NBA Finals. Chicago Bulls are playing against the Utah Jazz. It's a tight series. Both teams are very good. These are 2 best teams in the league playing for the championship. The Bulls are in Utah, and as the story goes, that we later found out, it's been told multiple times, Michael Jordan orders a pizza to his hotel room. Somehow, some way, the pizza shop finds out that it's Michael Jordan who is ordering the pizza. How they found out, I don't know. But anyway, somebody says, Michael Jordan's trainer actually said that somebody put something in that pizza. The pizza got poisoned somehow, some way. Michael Jordan ate the whole pizza because he was hungry. And then he comes down with a severe stomach virus the very next day, the day of the game. This is game 5 of the NBA Finals in Utah. The series is tied 2-2. Bulls in Utah. Michael Jordan, the best player on the team, has a stomach virus. A virus that is strong enough, based on, again, firsthand accounts from people who are around, the kind of virus that you ain't playing in no basketball game with that, even if it's the NBA Finals. But of course, Michael Jordan, not feeling his best, plays in the game, scores 38 points, makes the game-winning shot, and this game just goes down in history as another bullet point on the list of why Michael Jordan is maybe arguably the greatest athlete of all time, especially in the sport of basketball. He wasn't feeling great. He was not at his best, but he still came out there and delivered a great performance. Didn't complain about it, didn't make big news about it. He was, if you watch the video, you'll see during the timeouts, Michael Jordan he looks like he's sick or very exhausted. One or the other, probably a combination of both. It said he had IVs in his arm in the locker room. He was barely taking any water or Gatorade during the game because he couldn't hold anything down. He has this stomach virus. He had, all the blood was drained from his skin. He looked pale because he was sick. And he still played in the NBA Finals. This is not just a regular game in the NBA, which is the highest level of basketball in the world. This is the NBA Finals. And he goes out there and has a better game than anybody else. All these other guys are healthy, has a better game than everybody, and they win the game on the road, and then the next game they go back to Chicago and win the championship. Consistency of greatness. Even when you're not at your best and don't feel great, you still deliver. Kobe Bryant had many games like that. In that same book that I just read, I just mentioned, Showtime, and the book about Michael Jordan is called The Life, Roland Lazenby. So that's 3 books I just gave you added to your reading list right there if you haven't read those 3 books. But Kobe, during his career, especially because he had the same role that Michael Jordan had with the Lakers, that Kobe was the best player on the team. He was carrying the team. He had the ball in his hands most of the time. Every opponent, whole game plan was based around what are we going to do about Kobe Bryant? Maybe we can't stop him, but we got to figure out what we're going to do about him, because if we don't do anything, he's going to beat us and we're going to lose the game. Kobe had all kinds of aches and pains, all broken fingers, chipped bones, all kinds of stuff going on with his body because he's getting beat up. Playing in the NBA every single night, carrying a load, but Kobe still went out there and did what he needed to do. Another choice that must be made intentionally. Is this what I'm talking about here? Point number 3. Even when you don't feel great, you still deliver. Even when you're not really up to it, you still deliver. Even when you're kind of frustrated about the whole situation, you still do your job. Now, there are some professionals out there, very talented professionals, very skilled professionals whose overall body of work looks amazing, but when they don't really feel up to it, they don't show up. They don't really bring their best effort. There are some professionals, and you can maybe think of some, especially if you follow sports, who, when they're not feeling the situation anymore, they just kind of stop trying. They verbally quit, they physically quit, they emotionally quit. They just stop showing up, even though they're still being paid, even though they're still on the team, even though everybody's still watching them. They just stop showing up because that's their way of forcing the situation into the direction that they want to go. That's not being a professional, and it's definitely not being great. Greatness means you do it all the time, regardless of how you're feeling. Again, episode 864. This is not again, actually, it's the first time I'm mentioning this one. Episode 864. Success happens on purpose, only on purpose. Success does not happen by accident, folks. Consistent success must be a choice, it must be on purpose, and there must be a purpose behind creating it. It is a commitment to delivering at a certain level, regardless of how you feel, regardless of the challenges that come with it. Maybe because of the challenges that come with it. You may wonder how you're going to be able to do it, given the hardships of the job. So let me tell you how to do that. I want you to see episode number 318. That's the 90-10 rule. You commit first, then everybody else follows. Let me say it again. Episode 318, the 90-10 rule. You commit first, then everybody else follows. In other words, even when you don't know exactly how you'll figure something out, you commit to figuring it out, then you will figure out how to do it. You be first. Being is, I'm going to figure this out. Then the doing is the actions and the tactics that come with actually making it work. You decide you're going to do it, then the actions follow. And guess what follows actions? Results. Let's recap today's class, which is the consistency of greatness. In other words, how to be great all the time for you professionals and you soon to be professionals. Number one, when you are good, when you are a pro at what you do, you got to deliver it 95% of the time. The stars deliver about 75% of the time, and the average pro is about 50% of the time. If I'm hiring a pro, especially with something that matters a lot, let's say I'm getting some kind of surgery, or I need something done one time and it got to be done right that first time, I'm looking for the people who deliver at the 95% level, and I'm willing to pay for it. How about you? Point number two. This is not happenstance. It is a decision. It is a demand of your mental toughness to keep showing up, because guess what, folks? At the professional level, you will not feel good every day. You will not want to be at work every single time. I don't care how much money you're making, how many fans you got, how many followers you got on social media. You will not always want to be at work when you are a professional at what you do. But when you are a great professional, you show up and perform as if you wanted to be there, even if you didn't. That is a choice. It is a decision, and it does not happen any other way. You must play so well and perform so well, rather, that your sub decisions, let me back up. The sub decisions that you make in order to be so great on a consistent basis allow you to do this. In other words, if you want to be a great athlete, the sub decisions come with your nutrition, with your conditioning, with what you do in the off season, what you do in between the games, with making sure you're getting enough rest, getting enough sleep. If you want to be a great professional in any type of work that requires a lot of mental acuity, you probably want to make sure you're eating right. Make sure you have positive influences around you. Make sure you have a consistent schedule so that you're not wasting brain power and willpower on things other than what the main thing that it is that you do. You remember somebody like Steve Jobs, great book about him written by Walter Isaacson. Steve Jobs wore the same clothes every day, not the same actual clothes, but he had a whole bunch of the same shirts and the same pants, and who knows if he even had shoes on, because Steve Jobs didn't want to waste any of his brain power that he needed for Apple on anything trivial, like what kind of clothes am I going to wear every single day? These are sub decisions that lead to the big decision, which is to be great. And point number three, consistency of greatness means that even when you are not at your best and don't feel great, you still deliver. This is a choice that you must make intentionally. It does not happen by accident. See episode 864. Success only happens on purpose and with a purpose. Now, how do you do this given the hardships of the job? Sometimes you don't even know how you're going to figure it out. You be first, then you do, then you have. See episode 318 on the 90-10 rule for exactly how this works. Send me a text. Tell me the best thing you got from today's episode. My number, 305-384-6894. Again, 305-384-6894. Work on your game. Dre all day.